It returns now back. We are filling the fluid into the pipette. And now it starts from the front again. This is ping pong. So let us put back to the previous values. This is to false, and below it is also to false. Hop. Yes, here ping pong is also false. So let me explain further the code. Here below are some long arrays. This is meant if we have several objects. In the present, now we have 3 objects that we are blending successively. The first is water H1, the second is water 0, and the third is water L2. In the code, when we have the start function, you see with the initialization, we put in the first cell of the array water H1, in the second cell of the array water 0, and in the third cell of the array water L2. The indexes are the classical indexes as you encounter with if you are working with C programming language, that it doesn't start with 1 but it starts with 0. That's why it is 0, 1 and 2. The index. This is the array which is here. It is the name of the object initialized as empty strings, and later the program just looks if it is an empty string here, then there is no object, and if it is written something, then it expects an object and tries to find it. The next array is the game object. These are the game objects as they are on the screen. And then it is the skin mesh renderer, which is important when we are controlling the blend shape and also the mesh. But what is here for us more important is the blend duration, where we define, in fact, the percentage how long takes one step. You can, here it is 60, 80 and 40. I can enlarge this for you so that you see better. So the blend duration is for the H1 column, it is 60. You can imagine this as 60 frames, as 80 frames, and as 40 frames. Or you can imagine altogether as 100%, and then this is the percentage. It does not need to have, the sum of this does not need to have to be 100, it can be anything. But you can imagine as a percentage how long one blend shape object takes place on the screen, or acts on the screen. You can change this as you like. For example, if you want to make the first phase much faster, we can put here 20. And now let us have a look what happens. I am using the slider now. It is not automatic animation because I set those variables to the default values. You see the pipette now is already empty at this percentage of the slider length, and then the second phase is relatively longer, and the third phase is as it was. The second and third phase were not changed. You see, these were the 80 and 40, and the first one was changed to 20. So when you are putting new objects, you just put here above the names of the new objects, and then in this array you put the percentage, or maybe the best to imagine how many frames would you like to see an object on the stage. The next one, blend shape count, is in fact always 0, because you can have many blend shapes in an object that is under the blend shape function, but we use here only one. So water, it is not water in the pipette in H1, for example, has only one change of its form, not several. And the blend direction, this is in what way it is going. Let me show you here what I mean. If I make it a little smaller, so And let us look at water H1. We have here water H1, materials, animation. There is, maybe I have to put it here. Mesh components, animation, no, rig. No, that should be here. Yes, blend shapes, here it is. This is, I didn't see it before. This is water H1, this is the blend shape. I can change it with slider, and you see that the level is changing. So now if I am increasing this value, it is now 46, it is always from 0 to 100, so to say percentage. If I increase this value, then water is going down. But it could happen when I am in another program where I am doing blend shapes, that for some reason it is just the opposite. Then so if the number here is increasing, also the level of water would be increasing. So if you want to correct this, you have to correct the blend shape, composition, and so. But I made in the code it is not necessary. You just set the other blend direction. If I set here instead of 1, -1, then it would go the other way up. Let us look what I have just done. You see at the beginning it is the upper part of the pipette. I change only the water H1 component, this one. It is empty also if I select it. No, it doesn't, I can't select it as the project is running. Now as I am, so to say, emptying the pipette, the volume of water is increasing, and at this point the first water H1 becomes invisible and the blend of the water 0 starts. So you understand now that the water H1 is now blending just in the opposite direction, because we put here -1 instead of 1. So let us put back 1, that's it, and save it, just not to forget. And let us look on with the code. As I explained in short earlier, here we set the sequence with which the objects will run. At first, when we start moving the slider, water H1 takes blend shape, then water 0, and the last water L2. If I change, for example, this, let us put this to 0, and let us put this to 2, and run program once again. Now you see that, you will see now, that the first object that takes place is, so to say, the last drop. Then appears the second one, and the last is which was before the first one. This is because I put here to the last drop the index 0. The index 1 remained, the second one remained water 0, and that one which was at the beginning 0, it is now 2. I put it back to 0, to the previous constitution. So, and let us look once again if it is okay. Yes. Now you see the pipette is filled, it empties, and you can fill it again if you put the slider back. So let's go on. This is just the initialization of the arrays. It is finding here if as I said before, if you look at this array, if there is no name, then the length of this array is 0, and this loop is not executed. On the other hand, if here is the name, we put the name water H1 into the 0, then it finds here length is more than 0, it is water H1 in this case, and then the object is found, and so on, as we covered already before. This is the initialization in case we are running in the front direction, and otherwise if we are running in the backwards direction, it is the other way around. I said that it is not trivial. We have to take care in the code whether we are going with the slider in the forward direction, or if you are moving back the slider. And the last one is about using the animation. Let me explain now the slider. We have the horizontal slider, which this is the location of the slider on the screen. It is 25 pixels from the left and 25 pixels from the top. The slider length is a variable which you can change. This is the graphical slider length. You see here above somewhere. Otherwise, yes, here it is 600 pixels. This does not, this is only the graphical as it appears on the screen. Let us go back to the slider. Current blend phase is the output of the slider. This is a very important variable. If you control this variable, then you also move the knob of the slider and govern the animation. And total blend phase, this is the actual length of the animation. In this for loop, we are going through the objects, so that for each object in this arrays, here in this arrays, we check and set the values. So I don't go in detail now, because in fact with such code it is best that you yourself go through and then you understand it. It is, you see, it's only a few lines, it is not difficult. It is more difficult to explain than to make experiment. And below it is the last function, run the blend. Here I shall explain this in the next about running the blend. About automatically running, it is best that I explain in the next part. So thank you, and then listen to the final part of this tutorial.